Good evening, welcome back to Norwich Talk for another match reaction. We're going to be reviewing Norwich City's 2-1 defeat at Vicarage Road this evening against Watford. A game that I did in fact describe as Norwich's best chance at winning a game between now and the end of the season, although it's not much of a shock to the system that Norwich have actually lost the game. I think we lost today's game in a bit of a better fashion than we did in the games in the past. However, I'm sure there'll be a few smug viewers who will, they called my bluff in regards to Norwich City winning this game, which is probably fair enough. However, I think the loss will be received in a bit more of a positive fashion given the actual starting lineup. Now, I do want to start with the starting lineup. It's more of a positive one to reflect on. It's one that I almost predicted identically to the one that actually was released. Obviously, Teemu Pukki was the only difference. In my preview to this match, I did say I wasn't really fussed as to who started the game between Adamida and Teemu Pukki. It was obviously Pukki. Sadly, he didn't have the impact he probably would have wanted to have had, which is a shame for him. His goal drought continues. However, I continue to have faith he'll turn it around. But you look at players like Mario Vrancic, Marco Stiepermann coming back into the lineup, you instantly see the impact of a player like Mario Vrancic. And, it's nice to see Daniel Farke sort of making these proactive changes ahead of the game because it's something that we called for a while. Now, I did fear if Norwich won this game, it'd be, what if this, what if that? However, we've lost the game, and I think it makes relegation maybe a little bit easier to consume for the rest of the Norwich fans. For what it's worth, I thought the changes Daniel Farke made were pretty good. I saw a few tweets about Marco Stiepermann saying he wasn't particularly brilliant. I thought he was actually okay for the majority of the game. Just like the rest of the Norwich players were all just okay. And in the Premier League, you can't really afford to be okay because you come up against players like Ismail Assar. I think that's his first name. I'm pretty sure I called him Naby Sarr in the last video, which I have no idea why I did that. Players like Troy Deeney as well, who are all just really good Premier League quality players, and they're going to punish you, which they did to Norwich. But yeah, going into the game, it was a positive feeling because of the starting lineup. In terms of the performance levels, I think Norwich raised them a little bit. We obviously started the game with a goal, the first goal since the restart of football for us. Premier League football, that is, of course. It was a really well taken goal from Buendia. Now, you look at that goal and it makes you sort of sad that we won't be able to see him in the flesh for Norwich City again, because I think he is the one Norwich player who warrants a move away from the club. I do think he has sadly outgrown us. However, we should probably enjoy watching him play for us between now and the end of the season. Hopefully that goal sort of kicks him on to grab another 2 or 3, and that'll add a bit more value onto his transfer price in the summer. But yeah, it was a really good start from Norwich, although we matched the positivity with sort of a huff and a puff in terms of conceding that goal straight away. Zonal marking proving to be not very good yet again. I'm yet to see an example of zonal marking where it works effectively and works well, which is a real shame. Sadly, today as well, Craig Dawson decided to turn into Sergio Ramos, which was a bit weird. I pointed out Craig Dawson before the game as a weaker player for Watford, and one that I thought the players could run at today, but he's proved me wrong and he was really good. I did see a tweet saying that Tim Krul maybe should have saved the goal. I don't agree with that at all. It was really terrible defended from Alex Tettey and Jamal Lewis between them. Dawson has just found it far too easy to run through them and just head the ball down. It's quite clever from him because in that position you're instinctively meant to just knock the ball down to really test the keeper, and it's paid off for him. So the thing that makes me feel a bit strange is the fact that when Watford scored, it was a bit like, right, okay, we sort of saw that coming, maybe just not as quick as it did, but it did feel like it was coming because Watford instantly put the pressure back on Norwich. However, the rest of the first half was pretty decent from Norwich, which is a fairly nice change. You look at a game like Brighton and Arsenal as well. We weren't particularly brilliant in the first halves of either of them games. Obviously, with Norwich not conceding first, I was feeling slightly positive in regards to a final result. I sort of thought maybe, right, here we go, we could get a win. But yeah, for the first half, we were pretty good. Norwich were naturally allowed to play a bit higher up the pitch. I think there was a bit more confidence taking the ball forward because you have a player like Mario Vrancic. You look at the wingers, for example, Ono Hernandez, Emi Buendia. They know if they push a bit higher up the pitch, Mario Vrancic will be able to find them. We know Pukki will be able to make more of his runs because a player like Mario Vrancic with the ball in midfield can play that ball. I think Pukki was sort of limiting them because he can only really make them runs when a player like Marco Stiepermann or Emi Buendia have the ball. But with Mario Vrancic, he had that third option. I thought Stiepermann was pretty good. He looked a little bit rusty to start with. However, he did have a few neat little moments where a player like Lucas Rupp and Andre Duda hadn't done that between, since they've been at the club, really, to be honest with you. I very much would probably start Marco Stiepermann again against West Ham. He just needs a few shots, to be honest with you. I think that will get his confidence really back. He needs a goal because Marco Stiepermann, much like many players in football, is very much a confidence player, and you can tell the difference between when he's got a lot of confidence and when he doesn't. When he's got a lot of confidence, he'll take players players on, and he's actually pretty good at that for a guy of his height. But when he's not, he'll get the ball down and he'll perhaps play a little bit safe. But we've seen that time and time again at Norwich City. It's not really a bad thing. It's just that when you are in fact fighting for survival in the Premier League, which Norwich City are still technically doing, although how long that will last, I don't know. I think Norwich City can be actually mathematically relegated by the weekend, which will probably be a bit of a reliever for the players. It will probably allow players like Josh Martin and Adam Eder to get a bit more game time in the team as well. But we found ourselves at half time in a position that we've been in before, which was right, we're level, although this time we'd scored a goal, so perhaps there was a bit more of an incentive to kick on and maybe grab another. One thing that I do want to comment on quickly is also, after half time, I think Daniel Farke made a substitution fairly quickly, which was Kenny McLean for Alex Tettey. Now, obviously, when Tettey came off, Watford scored immediately. However, I'm not frustrated at Daniel Farke for that substitution because it was an attacking one. Because Kenny McLean is obviously a lot more of an attacking player, a bit more technical than a player like Alex Tettey. And our moans, I'll say ours instead of sort of other people's because I've moaned about it as well, is that Daniel Farke hasn't chased the game. He's not been proactive. Now, bringing a player on like Kenny McLean and taking off a defensive-minded player like Alex Tettey is an attacking substitution. Now, I didn't really know how the sub would go. However, I was pleased to see it because it was attacking minded, and we know that McLean brings a lot more directness than Alex Tettey in terms of his ability to play a ball forward. However, he's not really covered himself in glory because he's gone down fairly softly against Ismail Assar, who was really, really good against Norwich today. He looks like a really good player. Strange attitude at times, but he does look like a very good player. Incredibly quick. Gave Jamal Lewis a real handful today to deal with, which he didn't particularly brilliantly. I don't think either fullbacks really covered themselves in glory defensively today. However, to counter that, I thought they looked okay going forward, although Jamal Lewis's crossing today was far better than Max Aaron's. I think there was 3 chances created from a Jamal Lewis cross. Max Aaron's crossing wasn't particularly brilliant today, wasn't his best game for Norwich, but we know that he's a quality player and that he can bounce back. But yeah, we'll look at the goal now, which was just unfortunate. I say unfortunate. It was unfortunate for Norwich, but it was brilliant from Danny Welbeck. He was a player who's not scored in the Premier League for I think nearly 2 years. I think it said on Sky Sports. I think 2018 was the last time he did, and it's a bit like Forestieri against for Sheffield Wednesday at Carrow Road last season. You've just sometimes got to applaud a goal. It was really, really good from Danny Welbeck. I think he showed his quality there in terms of the fact that he showed his instincts as a striker to just put the ball in the back of the net, and as a striker you've got to do that one way or another, and he's done it in beautiful style, which is just fair play to him at the end of the day. It was unfortunate for Max Aaron's. I'm not too frustrated at him because I think he's just sort of swung at the ball. I'd rather that than miss it altogether, to be honest with you, because then an easier chance opens up for Danny Welbeck. But yeah, at that point I didn't really know what to expect from the rest of the game. I think the tempo was lowered from Norwich City quite a lot. I think there was 2 chances maybe between that and the end of the game, which was the near post Vrancic header and also Adam Eder's goal, which if you look at that as an individual chance was a glorious one for him, and I would have loved for him to have grabbed his first Premier League goal, although I am nervous it'll waver his confidence. I hope it doesn't. He does look like a very mentally strong player, but hopefully it doesn't. I hope he doesn't feel the pressure of perhaps what a draw would have meant to Norwich, which is nothing. Hopefully someone can assure him that a draw would have done nothing for Norwich, but it would have been nice for him to get a goal. It's a nice bit of play from Josip Drmic as well, for as much as I've criticised him. It was a good flicked on header from him. It was a brilliant cross from Jamal Lewis. It's just unlucky that it didn't go in. It was a fairly liquid move from Norwich. A player that I've not actually mentioned so far today is Onel Hernandez. I thought he was really good when he was on the pitch, although in the second half I felt a bit bad for him because he had no service, and he's obviously a player who relies on service, being given the ball to then go and run at defenders, which he did really, really well in the first half. I think he's really making a case for him to start obviously the rest of the season and also go into next season as a player that Norwich should build their team around, which I think is the same circumstance for Mario Vrancic as well. I think next season, if he's at the club, he should definitely have the team built around him because he's got so much ability on the ball, and if you can have players who can read him well, you've got a team who are going to score another 100 goals in the Championship like we almost did last season. I'm not sure if we actually did or not. But yeah, they're sort of my thoughts on the game. I think Watford were okay. If I was a Watford fan, I'd still be slightly worried at the performance levels. I don't think they offered much of a threat to Norwich. I think if Norwich were playing higher quality opposition today, we would have conceded 3 or 4 maybe. What I take from today is Norwich looked a lot more confident and a lot more comfortable going forward, which is such an important thing in terms of Norwich scoring goals it was a goal today, but it will be important between now and the end of the season for Norwich to sort of emulate that confidence going forward. We still can't really defend, which isn't a problem to me, to be honest with you. I've sort of gotten used to it at this point. Hopefully, for next season, we can recruit some players who'll come in and put up a fight, or either come in the team and actually be able to defend. I think Tim Closer and Ben Godfrey weren't brilliant today. I think Troy Deeney bullied them quite a lot, but then you look at a player like Troy Deeney, and he's often really good at bullying Premier League defenders. He's a really good player, Troy Deeney. Not very technical, but he's very raw, and he's obviously scored a lot of Premier League goals, and he was probably unfortunate not to score one today. I think Tim Krul will be frustrated. He wasn't really tested too much. However, the couple of tests he faced were a point-blank header from Craig Dawson and also an overhead kick from Danny Welbeck that he was never going to get anywhere near, was he? But that's everything on my notes page for today's match review. Make sure you let me know your thoughts in the comments down below on Facebook, Twitter. I do enjoy engaging in a bit of conversation on Facebook. It is very fun at times. But yeah, that's literally just about everything. And until next time, we'll see you again very, very soon.